The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone present to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the journal.
In Senate, Tuesday, June 1st, 2021, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The journal of Monday, May 31st, 2021 was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions, messages from the Assembly. Secretary will read.
Senator Harkam moves to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 4662A and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 1201A, third reading count of 657.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Sanders moved to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 6333 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 4094, third reading count of 977.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Brooks moved to discharge from the Committee on Local Government Assembly Bill number 3237A and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 2036B, third reading counter 1101.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Ramos moved to discharge from the Committee on Labor Assembly Bill number 3350A and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 2766C, third reading counter 1110.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Kennedy moves to discharge from the Committee on Transportation Assembly Bill number 96A and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 4071A, third reading counter 1236.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Kaplan moves to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 7500 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6642A, third reading counter 1300.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Cooney moves to discharge from the Committee on Local Government Assembly Bill number 6481 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6303, third reading counter 1351.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator May moves to discharge from the Committee on Commerce, Economic Development, and Small Business Assembly Bill number 7501 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6679, third reading counter 1357.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Gounardes moves to discharge from the Committee on Civil Service and Pensions Assembly Bill number 7023 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6737, third reading counter 1358.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator May moves to discharge from the Committee on Aging Assembly Bill number 7022 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6740, third reading counter 1359.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Myrie moves to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 7478 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6855, third reading count of 1360.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Jackson moves to discharge from the Committee on Local Government Assembly Bill number 7168 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6883, third reading count of 1361.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Prasad moves to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 7656 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 7017, third reading count of 1364.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Griffo moves to discharge from the Committee on Consumer Protection Assembly Bill number 436 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 3812, third reading count of 1375.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Hoylman moves to discharge from the Committee on Judiciary Assembly Bill number 5858A and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6494A, third reading count of 1392.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Reichlin Melnick moves to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 6841 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6720, third reading count of 1404.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator May moves to discharge from the Committee on Environmental Conservation Assembly Bill number 7569 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 7047, third reading count of 1419.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Thomas moves to discharge from the Committee on Environmental Conservation Assembly Bill number 7607 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 7064, third reading count of 1426.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Brooks moved to discharge from the Committee on Environmental Conservation Assembly Bill number 7394 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 7065, third reading count of 1427.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator Kaminsky moves to discharge from the Committee on Environmental Conservation Assembly Bill number 7393 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 7070, third reading count of 1429.
Substitution so ordered. Messages from the Governor. Reports of standing committees. Reports of select committees. Communications and reports of state officers. Motions and resolutions. Senator Gianaris.
Okay, good afternoon, Madam President. Amendments are offered to the following third reading calendar bills. Senator Ramos, Calendar 1191, Senator Grenardis, Calendar 1341, Senator Harkin, Calendar 1103, Senator Comrie, Calendar 395, Senator Parker, Calendar 852, Senator Felder, Calendar 1192, and Senator Skoufis, Calendar 301.
Amendments are received and bills shall retain their place on the third reading calendar.
Okay, I also wish to call up Senator Parker's bill, Senate 1557A, which was recalled from the Assembly and is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 118, Senate Print 1557A by Senator Parker, an act to amend the Public Service Law and the General Business Law.
By which the bill was passed.
The Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White, ayes 61.
The bill is restored to its place on the third reading calendar.
I now move to amend Senate 1557A by striking out the amendments made on April 21st and restoring it to its original print, 1557.
It is so ordered.
On behalf of Senator Brooks, I move to amend Senate Bill 1372A by striking out the amendments made on May 25th and restoring it to its original print, 1372.
It's so ordered.
And on behalf of Senator Mayer, I move to amend Senate Bill 3467B by striking out the amendments made on June 1st, 2021, and restoring it to its previous print, 3467A.
So ordered.
I now move to adopt the resolution calendar with the exception of resolutions 997 and 1009.
All in favor of adopting the resolution calendar with the exception of Resolution 997, 1009, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
There will now be an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332.
Please take up resolution, previously adopted Resolution 901 by Senator Myrie. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Myrie.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 901 by Senator Myrie, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the passage by the United States Congress of the 26th Amendment, providing for the voting rights of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds to the Constitution of the United States.
Senator Myrie on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. To the day 50 years ago, New York ratified the 26th Amendment that lowered the voting age to 18, and we are commemorating that today in a particularly hostile environment for voting rights across the nation. And on this day, we made a decision as a country that our young people that we could send off to war should be able to also vote in the country that they were fighting for. Our young people will lead us. They have been leading on issues like climate change and violence prevention and racial equality. And they should be as involved in our civic community as anyone else. I like to consider myself a young person, although I'm aging out of certain brackets. And so we are very proud today to hold this resolution. I thank the leader and encourage my colleagues to sign on as co-sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was previously adopted on May 25th. Senator Liu.
And please take up previously adopted Resolution 680 by Senator Kennedy. Read that resolution and read that resolution title only and recognize Senator Kennedy on the resolution.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 680 by Senator Kennedy, mourning the death of Stanislaw Markut, one of the last Polish veterans of the World War II, living in Western New York, distinguished citizen and devoted member of his community.
Senator Kennedy on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to honor the life and service of Stanislaw Stanley Markut of Sloan, New York, one of the last Polish veterans of World War II living in Western New York. Stanley passed away on March 21st at the age of 100 years old, just shy of his 101st birthday. In his 100 years on Earth, Stanley served his country and his community with great pride. Born in Poland in 1920, Stanley was training to become a woodworker until the day he and his family were forcibly removed from their homes and taken to a camp in Soviet Siberia. When amnesty was declared, he and his family were transported to Kazakhstan, and shortly after, Stanley joined the Polish Army and was stationed in Scotland as part of the 1st Regiment, 1st Armored Division of the Polish Army. As a sergeant, he, along with Canadian forces, rolled into Juno Beach in 1944 in support of post-D-Day invasions of Normandy and was later wounded in the Battle of Falaise Gap in France. His discipline and bravery was recognized with numerous awards, including the Polish Wounded Star, which is the equivalent of the Purple Heart, the Polish Army Medal, and the British Defense and War Medal. Stanley continued that call to service after making his home here in the great state of New York. As a proud member of various Polish-American civics clubs, he fought tenaciously for the rights of Polish World War II veterans. He was the founder of the Polish Saturday School in Buffalo and devoted his time to the SPK post number 33 and the SWAP post number 1, as well as the Adult Day Family at the VA and the Polish American Congress of Western New York. Stanley took pride in making our community brighter, quite literally by using his gardening skills to transform landscapes on Buffalo's east side and then later on in the village of Sloan. But above all, he took pride in his family, his beloved late wife, Antonina, his 2 children, Eulala and Antoni, and his many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Stanley Marcotte spent 100 years dedicating his life to helping others. His legacy and his commitment to creating a better world will undoubtedly live on in all of them, and his compassionate spirit will be remembered by the many veterans he helped throughout his lifetime. We are forever indebted to him for his service, and today we honor his memory and his outstanding contributions to our state, our country, and countless other communities around the globe. May he rest in peace. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was previously adopted on May 5th. Senator Liu.
Madam President, please take up previously adopted Resolution 401 by Senator Thomas. Read that resolution title only and recognize Senator Thomas on the bill.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 401 by Senator Thomas, memorializing Governor Andrew M. Cuomo to proclaim August 7, 2021 as Purple Heart Day in the state of New York.
Senator Thomas on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. On Purple Heart Day, which falls on August 7th each year, we pause as a nation to reflect on the tremendous sacrifices made by our service members. The Purple Heart is one of our nation's most important honors. The original Purple Heart, designated as the badge of military merit, was established by George Washington, then the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, by order from his Newburgh, New York headquarters on August 7, 1782. The badge of military merit was only awarded to 3 Revolutionary War soldiers by Washington himself. The Purple Heart was revived on the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth out of the respect to his memory and military achievements in 1932. The Purple Heart is awarded in the name of the President of the United States to any member of the armed forces of the United States who, while serving under competent authority in any capacity with one of the U.S. Armed Services, after April 5th, 1917, has been wounded or killed. The Purple Heart represents the incredible sacrifice and commitment of our combat-wounded veterans. I am honored to recognize our Purple Heart veterans by presenting this resolution asking the governor to proclaim August 7th as Purple Heart Day here in New York. Let this resolution be a reminder of the gratitude and respect our community and our state holds for the bravery, selflessness, and endless sacrifices made by our Purple Heart veterans. Without them, we would not enjoy the gifts of freedom and opportunity we are blessed with in this country. God bless everyone.
Senator, the resolution was, Senator Jordan on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I proudly rise to speak on the legislative resolution before us, memorializing the governor to proclaim August 7th, 2021 as Purple Heart Day in our state, in conjunction with the observance of the National Purple Heart Day. Today's resolution comes just a day after my colleagues' strong bipartisan support for my legislation designating New York State as a Purple Heart State that passed during yesterday's session. My heartfelt thanks to my colleagues for the support on my bill. The Purple Heart is the oldest and most venerated military decoration awarded in the name of the President of the United States to members of the United States military who have been wounded or killed in action. While the Purple Heart is not an award that one seeks to attain per se, it is an award that recognizes incredible courage and valor of the highest order. The Purple Heart has been awarded to almost 2 million Americans who have been wounded in battle or killed in action. This prestigious award was created by General George Washington to honor and thank the brave soldiers who fought under his command for America's independence. My good friend, United States Marine Corps Captain David Wallingford, who also serves as commander of Chapter 446 of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, partnered with me in the important nonpartisan effort to establish local Purple Heart communities across my Senate district and our entire state. I was proud to be serving on our Half Moon Town Board when Commander Wallingford brought the opportunity to our town to become a Purple Heart town. It was an easy decision for us. Since 2019, I've led the grassroots effort in my 43rd Senate District and across our state to establish Purple Heart communities to recognize and honor the courage and commitment of Purple Heart recipients. Purple Heart communities publicly recognize the service and sacrifice of these incredible heroes and affirm a local community's respect and recognition of these proud patriots. Within my 43rd Senate District, out of the 60 municipalities, 50 towns, villages, and cities in all 4 counties, Saratoga, Rensselaer, Columbia, and Washington, have successfully passed local resolutions and have become Purple Heart communities or counties. In addition, out of the 62 counties in New York State, 40 are now Purple Heart communities, and several more are pending. Furthermore, 18 other areas, including buildings, trails, and parts of highways, have been renamed with the Purple Heart designation. I'm proud to have led this statewide movement that's putting the focus on our incredible Purple Heart recipients. America is the home of the free because of our brave, because of our veterans. 2 days ago, we observed Memorial Day, a special, solid, sacred day where we paused, reflected, and remembered the men and women of our armed forces who gave everything in our nation's defense. While we may not know them all, we certainly owe them all. We owe America's heroes who faced certain danger, even death, heroes with the courage to do what was right, even at the risk of their lives, a risk that sadly was all too often realized. Heroes who asked nothing in return and to whom we owe everything. Heroes whom the Purple Heart was created to honor. In closing, I'd like to share a quote from our nation's founding father, General, and President George Washington, who started the Purple Heart. President Washington said, "The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation." General Washington's words embody why I believe the Purple Heart community is so important and that we must honor those that are recipients and educate the next generation as to the honor of those awarded the Purple Heart so that they too respect the recipients and consider service to our nation and its timeless ideals. And most importantly, I want to recognize the courageous American patriots who lost their lives in service to our country. This legislative resolution helps us achieve each of these important nonpartisan goals. I want to recognize and thank Senator Thomas for bringing this important measure to the floor. And of course, I thank my Senate colleagues for their strong bipartisan support of this effort for today's resolution and also my legislation yesterday. I will continue working with Assemblyman Jake Ashby to ensure that the Assembly companion bill for this measure is passed and that New York State is actually designated a Purple Heart state. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was previously adopted on February 23rd. Senator Liu.
Madam President, please take up adopted Resolution 997 by Senator Brooks. Read that resolution title only and recognize Senator Brooks on the resolution.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 997 by Senator Brooks, commemorating the 80th anniversary of Civil Air Patrol.
Senator Brooks on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, we honor and mark the 80th anniversary of the Civil Air Patrol. Founded on December 1st, 1941, just days before the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The Civil Air Patrol played a critical role during World War II, patrolling our coastal waters and boundaries. They identified many German ships and submarines, some of which were attacking the merchant ships from both the United States and other countries around the world. The continued assistance the Civil Air Patrol gave to the civilians of the country during the war by providing search and rescue programs, doing flyovers for potential fires, providing humanitarian assistance. And one of the unique roles they also played from a military standpoint is flying targets past troops to practice to get into the warfare. In 1948, the Civil Air Patrol became an auxiliary to the United States Post Office, to the United States Air Force. Today, the Civil Air Patrol is made up of dedicated adults, young men and women who serve the patrol, and many first responders who also participate in their actions. The Civil Air Patrol, with its effectiveness, has been credited of saving 150,000 lives in 2020 and 62 lives so far this year. The Civil Service Patrol is made up of dedicated individuals who love flying and love this country. They serve throughout the year. In the past year and a half, they played a critical role in this pandemic, providing assistance, airlifting vaccinations to different remote regions, continuing to do flyovers looking at fire zones, continuing to provide assistance in searches and rescues across this country. We as a nation have been blessed for 80 years by individuals who have volunteered to serve in this critical resource that we use in responding to emergencies and monitoring many regions of our country. They provide services such as aerial photography that's used to improve mapping and evaluate different environmental concerns. We are very fortunate that these individuals have dedicated their service for so long, and we recognize them on this, their 80th anniversary. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Liu on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President, for this opportunity to speak on the resolution commemorating the 80th anniversary of the United States Civil Air Patrol. The Civil Air Patrol is the auxiliary force of the United States Air Force. It is considered part of the total force. And Senator Brooks already gave a very detailed history, an 80-year history of this wonderful organization, an organization that did have its roots in World War II, but nonetheless today is not directly involved in any military or law enforcement operations. Rather, it is involved in disaster relief, as it has been during the numerous hurricanes we have witnessed in recent years. And a number of years ago, Hurricane Sandy in our area. It was involved in aerial survey in the aftermath of September 11th, the attacks thereof. And it continues to this day. In the past year, the Civil Air Patrol has, throughout the country, engaged in delivery of COVID tests and vaccines to the more remote areas of the nation. This is an organization that espouses core values of integrity, of volunteerism, of excellence, and of respect. It's an organization that is comprised of over 60,000 people across the country, over 3,000 fellow New Yorkers. It's an organization that I'm proud to call myself a member of, and I've been privileged to fly search and rescue training flights as well. And so I ask all of our colleagues to recognize and understand what the United States Civil Air Patrol is, and I thank Senator Brooks for introducing this resolution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Borrello on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I'd like to thank Senator Brooks for introducing this, and also for Senator Liu for your service in the Civil Air Patrol. Thank you. We have a long history in my district of the Civil Air Patrol and the work that they have done. And I want to recognize a couple of folks in my district. During World War II, they were key. They're known as the Flying Minutemen. The Civil Air Patrol protected our coastal waterways and borders and flew anti-submarine missions during World War II. Today, the Civil Air Patrol volunteers are as often the first responders to natural disasters. In World War II, Civil Air Patrol First Lieutenant William Heitz of Jamestown, New York, died on February 2nd, 1943, while on an anti-submarine patrol off the coast of Maine when his aircraft was lost during hazardous weather. For his bravery and service, First Lieutenant Heitz was posthumously awarded the Air Medal in 1947 by the U.S. Air Force. He was one of 2 New Yorkers serving the Civil Air Patrol to die during World War II. Sergeant George Stubblefield of Waterloo, New York, died during a recruiting mission in August 1944 and is considered a wartime casualty. During World War II, the Civil Air Patrol subchasers flew 86,865 missions, sighted in some cases, damaged U-boats, reported 91 ships in distress, reported 17 floating mines, and rescued 363 survivors of U-boat attacks off America's shores. They also saved the lives of untold thousands of sailors by preventing the loss of U.S. and Allied merchant ships during the war. 64 Civil Air Patrol aircrew members died during their service in World War II. Today, the more than 61,000 volunteers of the Civil Air Patrol perform search and rescue missions, disaster relief, border patrol, forest fire patrols, and work to keep the homeland safe. I'd like to thank those who have volunteered in the Civil Air Patrol over these past 80 years, and I am proud, very proud, to be a co-sponsor of this resolution today. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was previously... The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Senator Liu.
Madam President, please take up Resolution 1009 by Senator Myrie. Read that resolution, title only, and recognize Senator Myrie on the resolution.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 1009 by Senator Myrie, memorializing Governor Andrew M. Cuomo to proclaim June 2021 as Gun Violence Awareness Month in the state of New York.
Senator Myrie on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to our leader for bringing this resolution to the floor. I suspect we're going to have pretty extensive exchanges around gun violence later on this session, so I will not belabor the point. But just in the past 48 hours in Brooklyn, there have been 10 shootings in and around my district. But this isn't just a Brooklyn problem. Of course, this is a Rochester problem. This is a Utica problem, a Schenectady problem, a Troy problem, an Albany problem, a Bronx problem, a Long Island problem. It is a New York problem. And it's important that we take time this month to recognize gun violence for what it is, a public health crisis that deserves a public health response. We're proud this past month that this legislature declared gun violence a public health crisis, and now it's time for us to get to the solutions. So I look forward to the conversations we will be having today about some of those solutions. But I encourage every New Yorker to take time this month to recognize the impact that gun violence has on your life, on the life of your family, the life of your neighbors, and the life of the rest of New Yorkers in this state. So I'm proudly the sponsor of this resolution. I encourage all of my colleagues to join in their sponsorship and to vote in the affirmative. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
And can we now move to previously adopted Resolution 902 by Senator Hinchey? Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Hinchey.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 902 by Senator Hinchey, memorializing Governor Andrew M. Cuomo to proclaim September 26th through October 3rd, 2021 as Frontotemporal Degeneration Awareness Week in the state of New York.
Senator Hinchey on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today on a resolution proclaiming September 26th to October 3rd, 2021 as Frontotemporal Degeneration Awareness Week in the state of New York. This resolution is incredibly personal to me as my father passed away from FTD in November 2017. Frontotemporal degeneration, or FTD, is a terminal and incurable brain disease affecting the frontal and temporal lobes, causing impairments to speech, personality, behavior, and motor skills. It represents an estimated 5 to 15% of all dementia cases and is the most common form of dementia for people under the age of 60. FTD is often misdiagnosed as a psychiatric problem or other neurodegenerative disease because of the wide range of cognitive and behavioral symptoms and their young onset. My father was diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia, one of the many variants of FTD. A prolific reader, eloquent speech giver. He lost his language and was unable, for the many few years of his life, to communicate with those around him, unable to read the books that he so loved, and unable to remember the history that he held so dear. A dancer, a softball player, and a favorite outdoorsman, he was also diagnosed with Parkinsonian syndrome, which took away many of his motor skills and his ability to walk. This disease is right now an incurable disease and something that we need much more research to overcome. While there has never been a global epidemiology study of FTD, it is estimated that more than 60,000 people are affected in the United States today. That's 60,000 people losing their speech. That's 60,000 people with behavior modifications. There's 60,000 people with loved ones unsure of what's going on. 60,000 people probably misdiagnosed and unsure how they can ever continue with their life. We need more awareness for FTD to make sure that everyone knows what they're up against. We need more awareness in the medical community, and we need more awareness in our community at large. An organization that was incredibly helpful to my family and me was the Association of Frontotemporal Degeneration, AFTD, which provided us with a slew of resources and information so that we knew how to plan, we knew how to prepare, and we knew the things that could engage my father and make him comfortable in the last few years of his life. I'm honored to sponsor the resolution proclaiming September 26th to October 3rd as FTD Awareness Week here in the state of New York, because I believe more people here need to recognize this disease as what it is, something that is claiming the lives of many of our New Yorkers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Cooney on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. And I want to thank my colleague, Senator Hinchey, for sponsoring this resolution. I know it means a great deal to her family as it does my own. I remember when my own mother got lost coming to Albany in the Capital Region for my law school graduation. And she called me and she said, I forgot what exit I need to get off of here in Albany. And that was strange to me because she had driven to Albany so many times to visit me over my 3 years in law school. And that's when I knew something had changed. That's when I knew that something was different for my own mom and that greater attention was needed for her needs. It's not lost on me as a new member of the State Senate here in this beautiful chamber of the great privilege and opportunity that she provided to me when she adopted me and gave me the opportunity to be a New Yorker. And I feel a great responsibility, as I know Senator Hinchey does, to raise awareness around frontotemporal degeneration as a form of dementia that takes the lives of so many New Yorkers. That term FTD may not be a household term to so many in this chamber or in this state, but it means so much to those of us who have gone through that with a loved one. Someone who has forgotten their way on the thruway stop to Albany, someone who has forgotten their everyday ability to function. And so we need more resources in New York to support families who are going through this difficult process, a better healthcare system that will allow respite care for those who are working day and night on behalf of those who are suffering with any form of dementia, such as Alzheimer's. There's so much more work that we as a legislative body can do. And bringing awareness for this Awareness Week means so much to my family, and I'm just grateful to be part of a body that recognizes that this is an opportunity for us to do more, and if we don't do more, then we're not honoring those who have given us so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The resolution was previously adopted on May 25th. Senator Gianaris.
Sponsorship?
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor of the resolutions, please notify the desk. Senator Gianaris.
I believe there's a Rules Committee report at the desk. Can we please take that up?
The Secretary will read.
Senator Stuart Cousins from the Committee on Rules reports the following bills. Senate Print 16D by Senator Mayer, enactment of general business law. Senate Print 427A by Senator Hoyerman, enactment amend the executive law. Senate Print 485A by Senator Kruger, enactment of education law. Senate Print 741 by Senator Biaggi, enact to amend the election law. Senate Print 946B by Senator Gorin, enact to amend the workers' compensation law. Senate Print 1102A by Senator Kaminsky, enact to amend the town law. Senate Print 1270 by Senator Brooks, enact to amend the navigation law. Senate Print 1279 by Senator Bailey, enact to amend the criminal procedure law. Senate Print 1815 by Senator Skoufis, enact to amend the general municipal law. Senate Print 2542A by Senator Rivera, enact to amend the social services law. Senate Print 3437B by Senator Gorin, enact to amend the executive law and the general business law. Senate Print 3479 by Senator Comrie, enact to amend the public service law. Senate Print 3941 by Senator Comrie, enact to amend the general business law. Senate Print 4104 by Senator Breslin, enact to amend the general business law. Senate Print 4407 by Senator Parker, enact to amend the domestic relations law and the Family Court Act. Senate Print 4723 by Senator Kaminsky, enact to amend the election law. Senate Print 4864 by Senator Gorin, enact to amend the public authorities law. Senate Print 5023A by Senator Gianaris, enactment of the education law. Senate Print 5160B by Senator Skoufis, enactment of the municipal home rule law. Senate Print 5356 by Senator Brunson, enactment of the state finance law. Senate Print 5395A by Senator Savino, enactment of the general business law. Senate Print 5453A by Senator Helming, enact to amend the mental hygiene law. Senate Print 5606B by Senator Sanders, enactment of the public health law. Senate Print 5691 by Senator Griffo, enact granting retroactive Tier 4 membership in the New York State and local employees retirement system. Senate Print 5743A by Senator Skoufis, enact to amend the education law. Senate Print 6079A by Senator Grenardez, enact to amend the social services law. Senate Print 6302 by Senator White, enact authorizing Michael J. Capiello to purchase service credit for service with the Long Island Railroad Company. Senate Print 6307 by Senator Harkam, enact to amend the education law. Senate Print 6330A by Senator Henchy, enact to amend the agriculture and markets law. Senate Print 6353A by Senator Prasad, enact in relation to permitting the use of municipal space for outdoor dining. Senate Print 6373A by Senator Savino, enact to amend the workers' compensation law. Senate Print 6405 by Senator Grenardez, enact to amend the retirement and social security law. Senate Print 6511 by Senator Ryan, enact to amend the education law. Senate Print 6657 by Senator Boyle, an act in relation to authorizing the assessor of the town of Islip, County of Suffolk, to accept from the Community Services Support Corporation an application for exemption from real property taxes. Senate Print 6707 by Senator Gorin, an act to amend the public authorities law and the general municipal law. Senate Print 6772 by Senator Martucci, an act to amend Chapter 4 of the laws of 1977. Senate Print 6795 by Senator Mayer, an act to amend the education law and the general municipal law. Senate Print 6811 by Senator Harkam, an act to amend the real property tax law. Senate Print 6921 by Senator Brunson, an act to amend the public health law. Senate Print 7013 by Senator Adabo, an act to amend the racing, parimutuel waging, and breeding law. Senate Print 7098 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the executive law. Senate Print 7099 by Senator Salazar, an act to amend the criminal procedure law. Senate Print 7100 by Senator Grenardez, an act to amend the civil service law. Senate Print 7101 by Senator Bridgeport, an act to amend the education law. Senate Print 7102 by Senator Adabo, an act to amend Chapter 57 of the laws of 2015. Senate Print 7103 by Senator Ramos, an act to amend Chapter 363 of the laws of 2010. Senate Print 7104 by Senator Mannion, an act to amend Chapter 942 of the laws of 1983. Senate Print 7105 by Senator Cooney, an act to amend the executive law. All bills report directed third reading.
Move to accept the report of the Rules Committee.
All those in favor of accepting the report of the Rules Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The Rules Committee report is accepted. Senator Gianaris.
Please take up the calendar.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 104, Senate Print 687 by Senator Hoylman, an act to amend the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 104, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, and Tedisco. Ayes 48, nays 15.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 311, Senate Print 13A by Senator Kaplan, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 6, this act shall take effect on the 120th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator Bridgeport, right? Okay, Akshar, Borrello, Boyle.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 311, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Bridgeport, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 43, nays 20.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 312, Senate Print 14A by Senator Hoylman, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 312, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borello, Brisport, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Ritchie, Steck, and Tedisco. Ayes 48, nays 15.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 578, Senate Print 2127 by Senator Rivera, enactment of the Social Services Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 592, Senate Print 255B by Senator Mayer, enactment of the Labor Law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 592, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borello, Cooney, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Sereno, Steck, and Tedisco. Ayes 48, nays 15.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 624, Senate Print 5333 by Senator Steck. Concurrent resolution of the Senate and Assembly proposing an amendment to Section 1 of Article 14 of the Constitution.
Call the roll on the resolution.
Addabbo, Janoris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The resolution is adopted.
Calendar number 631, Senate Print 3258 by Senator Comrie, enactment of the Vehicle and Traffic Law.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 657, Assembly number 4662A by Assemblymember Burdick, enactment of the Public Health Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 758, Senate Print 5758B by Senator Brooks, an act in relation to authorizing the Village of Freeport to have a second associate village justice.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar number 758, voted in the negative, Senator Skoufis, ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 797, Senate Print 1684 by Senator Sanders, an act to direct the Department of Financial Services to conduct a study on underbanked communities and households in New York State.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 797, voted in the negative, Senator Borello, ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 865, Senate Print 5000B by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect July 1st, 2021.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Janoris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 865, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borello, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Ritchie, Steck, and Tedisco. Ayes 49, nays 14.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 905, Senate Print 2981 by Senator Prasad, enactment of the education law and the state finance law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 905, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 44, nays 19.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 952, Senate Print 6001A by Senator Brooks, an act to authorize Choice for All to file an application for exemption from real property taxes.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 952, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar and O'Mara. Ayes 61, nays 2.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 958, Senate Print 6402 by Senator Gorin, an act to amend the general municipal law.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 958, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Griffo, Jordan, Oberacker, O'Mara, Rath, Sereno, and Steck. Ayes 54, nays 9.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 977, Assembly number 6333 by Assemblymember Engelbrecht, an act to direct the Department of Environmental Conservation to study alternative municipal uses for recycled glass.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act will take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 977, voted in the negative, Senator Akshar. Ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 985, Senate Print 606 by Senator Benjamin, an act to amend the correction law and the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act will take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 985, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 43, nays 20.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1076, Senate Print 1048A by Senator Myrie, an act to amend the general business law.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 1077, Senate Print 3985 by Senator Reichlin Melnick, an act to amend the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1101, Assembly number 3237A by Assemblymember Hunter, an act to amend the county law and the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1102, Senate Print 4645 by Senator Thomas, an act in relation to authorizing the Nassau County Assessor to accept an application from the town of Oyster Bay for a real property tax exemption.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1102, voted in the negative, Senators Akshar and O'Mara. Ayes 61, nays 2.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1104, Senate Print 6579 by Senator Kaplan, an act to authorize Divya Jyoti Jagrati Kendra to file an application for rural exemption from real property taxes.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act will take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1104, voted in the negative, Senator Akshar. Ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1105, Senate Print 6582A by Senator Kaminsky, enactment of the Nassau County Civil Divisions Act.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act will take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1110, Assembly number 3350A by Assemblymember Joyner, enactment of the labor law and the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the 120th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator
Can I seek clarification, Madam President? What bill are we referring to?
1110.
Calendar 11.
Calendar 1110.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today, my colleagues, in order to support this bill because as a labor leader myself for several decades in New York City, before I held elected public office, I had a deep commitment to stamp out wage theft. This is a significant issue in the construction industry. So often, Madam President, unscrupulous employers and subcontractors take part in dishonest practices to avoid liability and make themselves judgment-proof from a wage theft action. Enough is enough. This bill will provide New York construction workers with an opportunity to fight against employers who attempt to steal their hard-earned pay. By holding the prime contractor and construction project liable for all subcontractors on a job, New York State will discourage bad behavior at every level of the enterprise so that construction workers can quickly collect unpaid wages. I thank Senator Ramos for her commitment on this issue. This legislation will incentivize the construction industry to stop mistreating workers. So today, in the name of workers' rights who for long have suffered exploitation, I vote aye, Madam President. Thank you.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1110, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Sereno, Steck, and Tedisco. Ayes 50, nays 13.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1111, Senate Print 3469A by Senator Kennedy, enactment of the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1111, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 48, nays 15.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1112, Senate Print 4394A by Senator Ramos, enactment of the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator Jackson to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise again in order to support this bill. New York State's whistleblower law protecting private sector employees has been too restrictive for too long, and this must change. Right now, an employee reporting sexual harassment may be at risk of retaliation by their employer with no protection from the law. Today, New York State takes a step forward with this bill, which creates parallel protections for private sector employees and independent contractors that already exist for public employees. I thank Senator Ramos again for leading the way and for my colleagues who have joined in co-sponsoring this bill. Once again, I proudly vote aye to protect our workers.
Senator Jackson to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1112, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Stack, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 44, nays 19.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1114, Senate Print 5055A by Senator Kennedy, enactment of the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator Kennedy to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to explain why I'm a proud sponsor of this bill and why I believe this legislation is critical here in New York State. I want to thank the Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart Cousins, for bringing this bill to the floor. This bill will require the Department of Labor and the Division of Human Rights to create a model training for employers statewide that will focus on educating employees on racial equity, social justice, and implicit bias. While many leaders in the public and private sectors may already advocate for racial equity and social justice, I firmly believe that New York must do everything in our power to ensure that people in workplaces are informed and prepared to understand and combat systemic racism in our society. The COVID-19 pandemic has had devastating effects on countless individuals and families. And for people of color, it shined a light on the undeniable systemic disparities that exist in this country, from health care to housing, food security to education, and so many more issues. We know we have real work to do when it comes to bridging these gaps and correcting these injustices. And the work starts with not just identifying racism or speaking out against it, but by truly being anti-racist. So many people do not understand what racial equity, social justice, and implicit bias truly is, or how it affects them or the people around them. Which is why, by providing training and a model for that training here in New York State, we'll be providing employers with a valuable resource that educates people, just as we provide training for ethics or harassment or a number of other topics. The only way we as a state can move forward together is if we commit to understanding and calling out the injustices that are pervasive, not just in our personal lives, but in our workforces in every single corner of this state and in society. Through this policy, we'll be adding yet another step that puts the state of New York at the forefront of addressing systemic racism, inequality, and disparities nationwide. If we want to truly rectify the racial and social inequities that exist across our state, New York as a whole needs to thoroughly examine our current policy and the perspectives that shape our decision-making. I'm proud to sponsor this bill with Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes, and we've had many conversations with advocates across the state who are fully supportive of this policy because they understand that through it, we will be taking real, proactive steps toward building a more educated and equal New York. To my colleagues, I thank each and every one of you for supporting this bill and look forward to moving forward as a state and leading the nation in this effort. With that, Madam President, I vote aye.
Senator Kennedy to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1114, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 46, nays 17.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1135, Senate Print 4449 by Senator Stavisky, enactment of the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 1st of July.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1137, Senate Print 6393 by Senator Reichman Melnick, enactment of the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1167, Senate Print 6666 by Senator Breslin, enact term of the insurance law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1168, Senate Print 6667 by Senator Breslin, enact term of the insurance law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1168, voted in the negative, Senator Skoufis. Ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1184, Senate Print 5645 by Senator Parker, enactment of the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1187, Senate Print 1251 by Senator Gianaris, enactment of the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1187, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 43, nays 20.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1193, Senate Print 4069 by Senator Addabbo, enactment of the tax law and the state finance law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1198, Senate Print 5180A by Senator Benjamin, enactment of the tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1201, Senate Print 5574 by Senator Prasad, enactment of the social services law.
Hold- Senator Gianaris.
Without objection, if we could allow Senator Oberacker to explain his vote on calendar 1198, which we just passed.
So ordered. Senator Oberacker to explain his vote on 1198.
Thank you, Madam President. I will be voting in the affirmative on this legislation. And I'd like to thank our, let me get my notes up here. I want to thank our bill sponsor, and I want to thank my predecessor, Senator Jim Seward, who authored this legislation and helped pass it previously. As a matter of fact, I reintroduced Senator Seward's bill, which is nearly identical to the bill we are passing today. So I definitely think this is a step in the right direction. This bill was an idea generated from a Senate Heroin Task Force forum that was hosted in the 51st Senate District, which I represent. You know, a job is more than just a paycheck for someone in recovery. It is a symbol of self-worth. By offering this tax credit, I am hopeful that more employers will show faith in people who are trying to rebuild their lives and have earned a second chance. So again, I want to thank the sponsor, and I am voting in the affirmative. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Oberacker in the affirmative on Bill 1198. Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1201, Senate Print 5574 by Senator Prasad, enactment of the social services law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1201, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 44, nays 19.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1219, Senate Print 5186 by Senator Sanders, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 13, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1219, voted in the negative, Senator Bridgeport, ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1224, Senate Print 3077 by Senator Salazar, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1224, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Gallivan, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 49, nays 14.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1229, Senate Print 6575 by Senator Savino, an act to amend the social services law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1230, Senate Print 6576 by Senator Savino, an act to amend the social services law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1236, Assembly number 96A by Assemblymember Gunther, an act to amend the vehicle and traffic law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1238, Senate Print 4846 by Senator Reichman Melnick, an act to amend the highway law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1254, Senate Print 5876B by Senator Brooks, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 120th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1255, Senate Print 6460 by Senator Brooks, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 120th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1258, Senate Print 1443 by Senator Addabbo, an act to amend the racing, parimutuel wagering, and breeding law.
Read the last section.
Section 14, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1258, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Griffo, Lanza, O'Mara, Palumbo, Sereno, and Steck. Ayes 57, nays 6.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1266, Senate Print 1275 by Senator Kruger, an act to amend the Business Corporation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1273, Senate Print 2700 by Senator Ort, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 120th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1275, Senate Print 2811A by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the Executive Law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1275, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Brooks, Felder, Gallivan, Gorin, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 40, nays 23.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1276, Senate Print 3009 by Senator Sepulveda, an act to amend the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1276, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 45, nays 18.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1283, Senate Print 5419 by Senator Brisport, an act to amend the social services law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 1st of April.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1289, Senate Print 6074 by Senator Salazar, an act to amend the Family Court Act.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 1st of April.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1297, Senate Print 6510 by Senator Mannion, an act to amend the Environmental Conservation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1297, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Skoufis, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 43, nays 20.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1298, Senate Print 6572 by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the social services law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1298, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Helming, Lanza, and Ritchie. Ayes 59, nays 4.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1300, Assembly number 7500 by Assemblymember McDonald, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1322, Senate Print 947 by Senator Gorin, an act to amend the navigation law and the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1322, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Myrie and Rivera. Ayes 61, nays 2.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1327, Senate Print 3448 by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1330, Senate Print 4343 by Senator Hinchey, an act to authorize the County of Ulster to offer an optional 20-year retirement plan.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1331, Senate Print 4359A by Senator Harcum, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1332, Senate Print 4401 by Senator Gallivan, an act to authorize Jason M. Scheidel to receive certain certain credit under Section 384-D of the Retirement and Social Security Law.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1333, Senate Print 4404 by Senator Jordan, an act to authorize the County of Columbia to offer an optional 20-year retirement plan.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed. Calendar 1341 is high and will be laid aside for the day.
Calendar number 1342, Senate Print 63A by Senator Prasad, enactment of the Social Services Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 1st of April.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1342, voted in the negative, Senator Borrello, ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1345, Senate Print 5544 by Senator Steck, an act to authorize Jamie Laxo to elect to participate in the optional 25-year retirement plan.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1346, Senate Print 5658 by Senator Parker, an act to amend the banking law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1350, Senate Print 6259A by Senator Hinchy, an act to amend the highway law.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 1351, Assembly number 6481 by Assemblymember McMahon, an act authorizing political subdivisions to permit any public body to hold meetings remotely.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1355, Senate Print 6459 by Senator White, an act to amend the town law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1357, Assembly number 7501 by Assemblymember Sturpey, an act to amend the Environmental Development Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1358, Assembly number 7023 by Assemblymember Abate, an act to amend Chapter 929 of the laws of 1986.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1359, Assembly number 7022 by Assemblymember Wallace, an act to amend Chapter 462 of the laws of 2015.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1360, Assembly number 7478 by Assemblymember Cusick, an act to amend the election law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1360, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Boyle, Helming, Lanza, Matera, Palumbo, Rath, and White. Ayes 55, nays 8.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1361, Assembly number 7168 by Assemblymember Pichardo, an act to amend the local finance law in Chapter 419 of the laws of 1991.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act will take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1364, Assembly number 7656 by Assemblymember Rosenthal, an act to amend Chapter 436 of the laws of 1997.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to Calendar 1364, voted in the negative, Senator Borrello. Ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1366, Senate Print 668 by Senator May, an action of the Social Services Law.
Read the last section.
Section 6, this act shall take effect on the 1st of April.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to Calendar 1366, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Martucci, Matera, Oberecker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, and White. Ayes 45, nays 18.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1368, Senate Print 1235 by Senator Gianaris, an act of the the General Business Law.
Laid aside. Senator Gianaris.
Time, can we suspend the reading of the non-controversial calendar and take up calendar 1368 immediately on the controversial calendar?
The secretary will ring the bell. The secretary will read.
Calendar number 1368, Senate Print 1235 by Senator Gianaris, an act of the General Business Law.
Senator Borrello.
Madam President, will the sponsor yield for a question?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes, Madam President.
The sponsor yields.
All right. Thank you, Senator Gianaris. My first question is, so if I'm a pistol permit holder and I have an order of protection against someone, do I still have to wait for this 10-day waiting period? Yes? Okay. So, would the sponsor continue to yield, Madam President?
Senator Gianaris, do you yield?
Yes.
Senator yields.
All right, thank you, Senator Gianaris. So if you're a victim of domestic violence and you try to get a gun, would you have to wait for that same 10-day waiting period?
Yes. It only applies to pistols, so if that person wanted to buy a long gun, they could do so right away.
Right, okay. Thank you, Madam President. Would the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yield. The sponsor yields.
So pistol permit holders already go through a very rigorous background check. In fact, New York State probably has the most rigorous when it comes to a check. You have to have references, the fingerprinting ID. It's a quite lengthy process, and in some places in New York, it's a year or more in order to get a pistol permit. So it's a pretty thorough vetting. So my question is, for that purpose, you've already gone through this background check. What is the purpose of the 10-day waiting period after all that?
The purpose is to counteract impulsive gun purchases. It has been shown through research that both in the case of suicides and hostility towards others, that a 10-day waiting period gives someone who might be impulsively seeking to purchase a gun a cooling off period.
Okay. Madam President, will the sponsor yield for another question?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Well, thank you again. So even though you've gone through this process of getting a pistol permit, it's taken maybe a year or longer, you've had a background check, references, a thorough vetting, there's a 10-day, as you call it, cooling off period. So what happens in that 10 days?
If someone is intending to purchase a firearm to do damage to themselves or others, they will come to their senses and not do so.
Okay. Madam President, on the bill?
Senator Borrello on the bill.
All right. First of all, Senator Gianaris, thank you very much for the engagement here. You know, I guess I would point out that right now we are talking about probably the highest standard in the United States when it comes to a pistol permit. And this 10-day waiting period largely only applies to people that are purchasing a pistol, not a long gun, not a shotgun. So those folks could still be impulsive, if you will. But we also should keep in mind that better than 95% of gun-related crimes are committed with a gun that was illegally obtained. So I think this measure is really mostly just for show. But let's talk about the real impact of this. New Jersey has a very similar law, a waiting period. And there's an unfortunate story of a woman who was a victim of domestic violence in the state of New Jersey, who was waiting for her 10 days and was stabbed to death by her abuser in her driveway. There are countless examples across the United States that are documented of people who have defended themselves with a legally purchased firearm. And after going through a very rigorous process in New York State to get a pistol permit, you're still going to have to wait another 10 days. And what's going to happen in that 10 days? Nothing, actually. So from the day that you got your pistol permit and you went to purchase your gun, in that 10-day waiting period, nothing's going to happen. So to me, this is just an empty gesture to satisfy more radical special interests. But it puts victims at risk. Once again, we are putting victims last in New York State. And this is another example that will cost lives. We have seen our streets become more violent. I was watching TV the other day, and I saw an NYPD officer trying to respond to a potential shooting victim in New York City. And their vehicle was assaulted, pelted. They couldn't get to the victim. So how do we defend ourselves in a state that has villainized law enforcement and emboldened criminals? Well, you're going to have to wait another 10 days to find that out, because you're not going to be able to defend yourself, even though you've made a conscious decision to apply for a pistol permit, taken months or even a year or more to get that pistol permit, and now you're going to have to wait another 10 days. It just makes no sense. I'd also point out the fact that we are about to pass a law that says you can show up on Election Day with no proof of who you are, register to vote, and vote on Election Day. Where is the background check there? How are we verifying and certifying that this person is actually a resident of New York State to begin with and legally allowed to vote here? That's okay for the same folks that are proposing that someone who has already been vetted, who wants to exercise their Second Amendment right to purchase a firearm, can do so legally, but has to wait another 10 days. But we're not going to wait 10 days, or even a day, or even an hour, to verify whether or not someone is actually a legal resident of New York State and qualified to vote here. You know, the hypocrisy and the irony doesn't escape me, and I'm certain it doesn't escape the people that I represent in the 57th Senate District, so therefore, I'll be a no on this bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Steck on the bill.
Actually, Madam President, the sponsor would yield for a couple questions.
Will the
please.
sponsor yield?
Yes.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President. Do you happen to have a pistol permit, or how familiar are you personally with the pistol permit process?
Either own a pistol or have a pistol permit, no.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I do not.
Okay. Madam President, through you, if the sponsor would continue to
Will
yield.
the sponsor yield? Sponsor yields.
So are you aware that the pistol permit process in New York State requires a background check, fingerprints, hundreds of dollars in applications, fees, and total costs to wait anywhere between 3 and 6 months for a judge to take all that information and then decide whether or not to allow that person to be granted a pistol permit? You are. Okay, thank you. Madam President, the sponsor would continue.
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you, Senator. Now, previously somebody asked you, and I want to make sure that I'm crystal clear on this. You said that this bill only applies to pistols, handguns. It does not apply to semi-automatic long guns, shotguns. It is only to pistols.
That's correct.
All right. Madam President, on the bill? Thank you.
Senator Steck on the bill.
Thank you. My previous colleague made a point that I thought was very relevant. I do want to touch on it again, though. Today, we're making it so that you don't have to have any ID at all to prove that you're eligible to vote. You can walk in, you can vote, and register on the spot. But we are going to require people to wait 10 days to exercise their right to have a firearm. Even somebody that already owns firearms, even somebody that already owns a pistol or 10 pistols, somebody that could have an order of protection against somebody else, has been evidenced in numerous cases around the country where somebody has been in that situation. They've already gone through all the background checks in the process, the lengthy process to have a judge issue a pistol permit, and we're going to tell that individual they have to wait 10 days. I wonder where the 10 days comes from. Why is it 10 days? Why is it not 24 hours? They do a NICS check within seconds when you try to purchase a firearm. And again, this doesn't prevent somebody from getting a long gun either. I think this is just a clear disrespect of the Second Amendment, and certainly it flies in the face of protecting people from crime, especially in the day and age where we're talking about defunding the police, legalizing everything. Our prison populations are half what they were 10 years ago. These 40,000 people that aren't in our prisons anymore in New York State are not all good people. Our crime rates are going through the roof, and of all times right now, with all that going on, I think that discussing this, it couldn't be a worse idea at this particular time. And for that reason, I'll be voting against this legislation. Thank you.
Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? No, Jackson. Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Gianaris to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I as always, listen to my colleagues when they are engaging in debates, especially on my bills. And so I heard a couple of them compare the process to obtaining a pistol to the process of voting. And my answer to them is a simple one. Yes, we want it to be easier for people to vote than to get a pistol. So maybe we disagree about that. It seems that Republicans all over this country, and including in this chamber, want to make it hard to vote and easy to get a gun. We want to make it harder to get a gun and easier to vote. And I'm not at all sorry that that's the position we're taking, and that's why a bill like this is so important. The other question I would suggest rhetorically is, what's the rush? You want to get a gun? You got to wait a week and a half to get it? What's the big deal? Why do you need it right away? Unless it's with the intent to use it in that period, and sometimes that use is one that maybe shouldn't be taking place. So I'm proud to vote in support of this bill. I thank my colleagues who are also supporting it, and I vote in the affirmative.
Senator Gianaris to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Jackson to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. My colleagues, I rise to explain my support for this bill, S-1235, which would establish a 10-day waiting period for purchase of any handguns. I support this bill because it is a common-sense measure to help us save lives and eliminate opportunities for impulsive acts of violence. It complements our already strong gun laws by imposing a waiting period prior to the sale of firearms that is in keeping with many other states, such as California, 10 days for all applicable firearms, the Washington, D.C., 10 days, Florida, 3 days, Hawaii, 14 days, Illinois, 72 hours, Iowa, 3 days, Maryland, 7 days, New Jersey, 7 days, Minnesota, 7 days, Rhode Island, 7 days, Washington, 10 days. So I say to you, it complements our already strong gun laws by imposing a waiting period for 10 days to the sale of a handgun that is in keeping with many other states, improving public safety by giving law enforcement officials sufficient time to conduct a background check on potential buyers, making this a bill that should have the full support of every single colleague here on both sides of the aisle. And make no mistake about it, this is not a Second Amendment issue. It's a public safety issue. And I want to thank Senator Gianaris for his leadership on this bill and all the co-sponsors as well. Today I vote aye in support of this legislation that will save lives. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Jackson to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1368, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Harcum, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, and White. Ayes 43, nays 20.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris.
Thank you, Madam President. Can we now return to the non-controversial calendar and pick it up at calendar 1371 where we left off?
The secretary will read.
Calendar number 1371, Senate Print 1767 by Senator Mannion, an act to amend the navigation law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1374, Senate Print 3312 by Senator Kaplan, an act to amend the retirement and Social Security law.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1375, Assembly number 436 by Assemblymember Jones. An act to repeal Section 16 of the General Business Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1378, Senate Print 4411 by Senator Skoufis. An act to amend the Retirement and Social Security Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1379, Senate Print 4440 by Senator Gurnardes. An act to amend the Retirement and Social Security Law.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1383, Senate Print 4779 by Senator Hinchy, an act to authorize the Village of Athens in the County of Greene to offer an optional 20-year retirement plan.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1385, Senate Print 4987 by Senator Lanza, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1388, Senate Print 6171B by Senator Ryan, an act to amend Chapter 560 of the laws of 1998.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1391, Senate Print 6428 by Senator Breslin, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the result. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1391, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Boyle, Helming, Palumbo, and Tedisco. Ayes 59, nays 4.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1392, Assembly number 5858 by Assemblymember Dinowitz, an act to amend Chapter 455 of the laws of 1997.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1393, Senate Print 6512 by Senator Gurnardes, an act to amend the Retirement and Social Security Law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1393, voted in the negative, Senator Lanza. Ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1394, Senate Print 6519 by Senator Stewart Cousins, an act to amend the Public Authorities Law.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1397, Senate Print 6569 by Senator Mayer, an act to amend the Education Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect June 30th, 2021.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1400, Senate Print 6618 by Senator Gurnardes, an act to amend the Retirement and Social Security Law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1403, Senate Print 6710 by Senator Gorin, an act to amend the Retirement and Social Security Law.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1404, Assembly number 6841 by Assemblymember Otis, an act to amend Chapter 602 of the laws of 1993.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1405, Senate Print 6764 by Senator Palumbo, an act to amend the Highway Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator Palumbo to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President, for allowing me to interrupt the proceedings for the purposes of explaining my vote. Trooper Donald Strand joined the Division of State Police on June 19, 1958, and served in Troop B prior to his transfer to Troop K area of Long Island on April 23, 1959. While on leave, he was ordered to report for duty as all leaves were canceled due to severe storm conditions resulting from Hurricane Donna. He was en route to the Bridgehampton station where he was assigned and was involved in a head-on crash. The operator of the other vehicle was killed and Trooper Strand was critically injured. He succumbed to the injuries on September 28, 1960. Trooper Strand was a dedicated public servant and first responder, and it's fitting that we honor his life and ultimate sacrifice by naming the portion of the state highway system constituting Sunrise Highway Peconic Overpass on Route 27 in the town of Southampton, Suffolk County, as the State Trooper Donald A. Strand Memorial Bridge. And Madam President, this is yet another reminder that those that serve and protect us every day are on the road and not only facing perils that are involved in the criminal justice system, but generally because they drive so many miles and are doing so much on our highways that they too can give the ultimate sacrifice. So I'm honored to be here, and this is a long time coming. Trooper Strand passed away September 28, 1960, so I'm honored to be here and to sponsor this bill. I vote aye. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Palumbo to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1405, voted in the negative, Senator Bridgeport. Ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1406, Senate Print 6765 by Senator Palumbo, enactment of the highway law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act will take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator Palumbo to explain his vote.
Thank you again, Madam President. And I'd like to also thank my colleagues for bringing this bill as well as the previous bill to the floor to memorialize those who lost their lives in the line of duty. Trooper Jose A. Rosado entered the New York State Police on September 19, 1988, and was assigned to Troop L, State Police Riverside. He was killed while on patrol in a two-car accident on January 24, 2007, in the town of Southampton, Suffolk County. Trooper Rosado was a dedicated public servant and first responder, and it's fitting that we honor his life and ultimate sacrifice by naming the portion of the state highway system constituting the Sunrise Highway Spionk River Road overpass on Route 27 in the town of Southampton, Suffolk County, as the State Trooper Jose A. Rosado Memorial Bridge. And I just wanted to reiterate, Madam President, that this again reminds us of the perils and the duty that our police officers every day serve on behalf of the residents of this state. And I'm honored to name this bridge and sponsor this legislation for Trooper Jose Rosado. I vote aye. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Palumbo to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1406, voted in the negative, Senator Bridgeport. Ayes 62, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1407, Senate Print 6798 by Senator Breslin, an act to authorize and legalize certain acts and proceedings of Albany County.
There's a home rule message at the desk. Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1408, Senate Print 6824 by Senator Prasad, an act from the Family Court Act.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1409, Senate Print 6886 by Senator Liu, an act from the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1410, Senate Print 6909 by Senator Borrello, an act in relation to permitting the Abundant Life Church to file an application for a real property tax exemption.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1410, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar and O'Mara. Ayes 61, nays 2.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1412, Senate Print 6972 by Senator Gurnardes, an act to amend the administrative code of the City of New York.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1413, Senate Print 6974 by Senator Kavanaugh, an act amending the private housing finance law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1415, Senate Print 7009 by Senator Savino, an act amending the retirement and social security law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1416, Senate Print 7019 by Senator Kruger, an act amending the state technology law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1417, Senate Print 7021 by Senator Reichlin Melnick, an act to amend the village law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1418, Senate Print 7031 by Senator Liu, an act to amend the real property tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1419, Assembly number 7569 by Assemblymember Hunter, an act to amend the environmental conservation law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1420, Senate Print 7055 by Senator Cooney, an act to amend Chapter 371 of the laws of 2009.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1424, Senate Print 7059 by Senator Rivera, an act to amend Chapter 81 of the laws of 1995.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1425, Senate Print 7062 by Senator Rivera, an act to amend Chapter 459 of the laws of 1996.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1426, Assembly number 7607 by Assemblymember Kellers, an act to amend the environmental conservation law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1427, Assembly number 7394 by Assemblymember Lunsford, an act to amend the environmental conservation law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1428, Senate Print 7069 by Senator Gorin, an act to amend Chapter 626 of the laws of 1996.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1429, Assembly number 7393 by Assemblymember Engelbright, an act to amend the environmental conservation law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed. Senator Liu, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Madam President, now we will take up the controversial calendar, beginning with calendar 1350.
The secretary will ring the bell. The secretary will read.
Calendar number 1350, Senate Print 6259A by Senator Henchy, an act to amend the highway law.
Senator Lanza, why do you rise?
Madam President, I believe there's an amendment at the desk. I waive the reading of that amendment and ask that Senator Steck be recognized and heard.
Thank you, Senator Lanza. Upon review of the amendment in accordance with Rule 6, Section 4B, I rule it non-germane and out of order at this time.
Accordingly, Madam President, I appeal the ruling of the chair and ask that Senator Steck be recognized.
The appeal has been made and recognized, and Senator Steck may be heard.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to appeal the ruling of the chair The proposed amendment is germane to the bill at hand because this legislation requires the Department of Transportation to issue a notice of completed application for fiber optic utilities within the state highway right-of-way. The sponsor notes that there have been significant delays in this permitting process and more projects are expected. This amendment is germane because it would repeal the fiber optic tax, reducing the cost of expanding broadband throughout our state as projects and as we continue to aim to expand broadband. The 2019 enacted budget authorized DOT to charge a fee on fiber optic utilities for the use and occupancy of the right-of-way of New York State highways. This new fee reversed decades-old policy allowing utilities free access to such right-of-ways. This longtime policy incentivized investment and development of critical infrastructure statewide. At the time of implementation, the fee was projected to cost providers approximately 60% of a normal year's construction budget and require carriers to reduce their construction budgets for new projects by nearly 75% just to break even. The fee does not apply to other utilities, nor does it apply to projects that are part of the executive's new New York broadband program. However, as industry representatives have routinely pointed out, the new New York broadband program represents just 3% of total households and businesses in New York. Any existing and future fiber optics that help serve the remaining 97% of the state residents get taxed. The lack of access to broadband is a major issue for our upstate communities in the best of times, as the lack of high-speed internet limits the ability to attract new businesses and for existing businesses to expand. According to the Microsoft utilization data, only 54.6% of New Yorkers utilize the internet at broadband speeds, meaning almost 7 million New Yorkers are not using the internet at broadband speeds. During COVID-19, access was even more critical as people worked from home and children attended school remotely. The fee stifles investment, deployment, and expansion at a time when New York is receiving billions in federal funding for broadband expansion and carriers are building out their 5G networks. This is a moment we should be investing in our infrastructure and ensuring all New Yorkers have access to broadband service. For these reasons, Madam President, I strongly urge you to reconsider your ruling. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I want to remind the House that the vote is on the procedures of the House and the ruling of the chair. Those in favor of overruling the chair signify by saying aye.
Of hands.
Madam President, by unanimous consent, please waive the showing of hands and record each member of the minority in the affirmative.
Without objection, so ordered. Announce the results.
Ayes 20.
The ruling of the chair stands and the bill in chief is before the House. Secretary will ring the bell. Oh, sorry. Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 2, this action will take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 63.
The bill is passed. The secretary will read.
Calendar number 1076, Senate Print 1048A by Senator Myrie, an act to amend the general business law.
Senator Palumbo.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the sponsor yield for a few questions, please?
Will the sponsor yield? Absolutely. The sponsor yields.
Thank you, Senator Myrie. Nice to see you. I have just a few questions, if I may, in this regard. And I look at, just generally in Section 1, there's a reference to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosive Statistics. The 74% of firearms used in crimes in New York are purchased outside of New York State. Do you know the date of that particular study?
Madam President, through you, that percentile has been roughly the same for approximately the past 10 years. As my colleague knows, ATF is required to make an annual report based on their gun tracing data for every state in the union. And the most recent report, I believe it's in 2019, indicated that approximately 75% of crime guns originated out of the state of New York.
Would you yield for another question, please?
Does the senator yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you, Senator. So when you say that they originated from outside of New York, that they weren't necessarily purchased outside of New York, that they ultimately were manufactured outside of New York, is that more accurate?
So through you, Madam President, according to the data that is aggregated by the ATF, and my colleague is also aware that the tracing that is done by ATF is generally an undercount. This is something that happens at the instance of the crime. They trace the gun and look back to the origins. And based on that methodology, 75% of those guns they were not traced back to the state of New York.
Senator, would you yield for another question, please?
Does
Through
the
you,
sponsor
Madam
yield?
President.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you, Senator. And did you have any conversations when crafting this legislation with any stakeholders, the gun industry themselves, their advocacy groups like NRA or anyone else in that regard?
Through you, Madam President, let me first say that the most important constituency and the reason for this bill are the thousands of New Yorkers that are victims of shootings, many who have lost their lives tragically because of the illegal trafficking of guns. As someone who was born and raised in Central Brooklyn, I have the honor of representing Central Brooklyn now. Gun violence and shootings are all too familiar. So this is not an issue that I needed to seek counsel on or to get a lobbyist to tell me what the problem was. But that said, we did speak to the gun industry, and we did hear their concerns about the bill. But I will say that the impetus for this bill are the lives that are being lost on a daily basis, and through no fault of their own, people who are being victimized because we have bad actors in the gun industry who refuse to take the proper, reasonable protocols and procedures to stop their dangerous products from killing people here in the state of New York.
The sponsor yields?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Senator Murray, in that regard, then, do you have any statistics or did you speak to anyone regarding the amount of lawful guns that are used in crimes, because you just mentioned the illegal trafficking, versus the amount of illegal guns that are used in crimes in this country or in New York or in anywhere, in any respect?
Statistics for crimes committed with legal guns throughout the country. I have relied mainly on the ATF's own data that they produce on an annual basis about the usage of illegal guns. And through experience as a representative of neighborhoods that are plagued by violence, but also in my conversations with law enforcement and district attorneys, we know that the crime that's related to guns, it's an illegal gun problem. And that is what this bill is aimed at, stemming the illegal use of weapons in the state of New York.
In that regard, would you yield for another question, please, Senator?
Certainly.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you, Senator. And I've seen various different studies, and the one I was able to put my finger on today was published in January of 2019, and it was the United States Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs, Bureau of Justice Statistics, in 2016 did a study. And so the Obama Justice Department found the following results. Of 287,400 prisoners had possessed a firearm during their offense. Among these, more than half, 56%, had either stolen it, 6%, found it at the scene of the crime, 7%, or obtained it off the street from an underground market. The last line on this first page, 7% had purchased it under their own name from a licensed firearm dealer. And the reason I bring that to your attention, and I'm going to ask you a question in that regard, is can we agree that it's already illegal for someone to buy for another person, called a straw purchase? In fact, if I go into a gun dealership and you and I both are lawfully able to possess a gun, and the dealer puts my name on it and I'm buying it for you, all three of us are guilty of a crime, right? Is that accurate?
That sounds accurate.
Okay, thank you. Would you yield for another question, please?
The sponsor yield. The sponsor yields.
Thank you. So, Senator, my question to you is, in light of the fact that, according to this fairly recent study, 7% of gun crimes are committed with legal gun crimes, can you explain to me how this bill will address the 93% of illegal guns? Because those individuals who are illegally obtaining the guns, I don't see how this bill holding manufacturers liable and gun dealers liable will have any effect on those illegal gun possessors. Can you please explain that to me, please?
Yes, so through you, Madam President, and I appreciate the question, Senator Palumbo, and I think it allows me to speak to what the importance of this bill is and exactly what we're aiming at. You note that this is a small percentage of individuals that are committing the overwhelming majority of the infractions. Much like actual gun violence, in the gun industry, it is a small group of bad actors that are committing the overwhelming majority of the infractions. And what do I mean? There was an explosive USA Today Trace report released last week that examined inspections by the ATF from the years of 2015 to 2017. Over 2,000 inspections were examined. And throughout those inspections, what we saw, a common refrain, was gun dealers, manufacturers, pawnbrokers, members of the gun industry who were committing violation after violation after violation, but who were not being held accountable. In fact, the states where most of the crime guns in New York come from, like Georgia and North Carolina, those inspections were examined, and there were gun dealers that violated the law 10 consecutive times and were issued the lowest penalty possible from the ATF, a simple warning letter. And what do these violations constitute? Filling out the proper paperwork when you sell a firearm, recording the record of that transaction, ensuring that you fill out the proper form when an individual buys more than one firearm over the span of 5 days. What we all agree are common sense regulations on the commercial sale of firearms. So what we found in that study was that many members of the gun industry that are repeatedly violating the law, not taking the safety precautions, have no mechanism for accountability whatsoever. And so what this bill does isn't an automatic imposition of accountability. It simply allows victims of gun violence to have their day in court. The gun industry enjoys, as you know, great immunity from civil liability. And so these same irresponsible bad actors in the gun industry are able to repeatedly violate the law and not take the proper safety precautions, and no one can bring them into court. So if we have a measure of accountability, if we are allowed to have a fact finder determine whether or not that gun industry member was irresponsible, then we may see some action. This is the same course of civil justice that has led to many of the things we take for granted today in the automobile industry. Seat belts and safety bags were not sprung out of the well of goodness from corporate executives. They were sued. There was litigation. People died. And they said, we deserve a day in court, and the industry changed its behavior.
For another question, please.
Yes.
The Senator yields.
Yes.
Sponsor
Well,
yields.
Senator, this bill does a little bit more than that, because if I may just explain a little bit what you're discussing, there were some lawsuits, and ultimately, a public nuisance was not found by simply manufacturing a gun. And then later on, the Court of Appeals said that there is no duty for violence that's committed downstream after that firearm has been transferred. And so I do agree with you. I think we're all on the same page that the unscrupulous gun dealers need to be punished, because that, in fact, under Title 15, United States Code, you've mentioned many of these definitions, as a matter of fact, in 7903 in that entire title, it's illegal to do that under federal law, and usually they have a much heavier hammer when it comes to that federal law versus the United States attorney versus local district attorneys. So we're in agreement. Those unscrupulous gun dealers who are selling guns to people who are not authorized to possess them, I am a gun owner, and I absolutely agree with you, 100%. They need to be punished. However, this bill does a lot more than that. This bill will now affect or provide a cause of action against a manufacturer downstream. So we'll get into a few specifics of the bill if you don't mind, and that's where I'm really troubled by the language here, because some of it is quite vague and is actually subject to interpretation. And I did have some individuals and some groups that were concerned with this legislation who provided me with a number of examples that I'd like to be able to ask you, so we can just clarify for the legislative intent purposes of this bill as to what is reasonable, what is unreasonable, because it says you have in this bill illegal, which we all agree should be a violation, and the manufacturer should have some responsibility if they're illegally selling guns. But once a legal gun is transferred and all compliance is done between background checks, federal and local laws, and state law, can you explain to me how a manufacturer is supposed to control a gun that they sold lawfully to someone that maybe lost it, stole it, illegally sold it, whatever it may be? So that's really the nexus of my questions, and I'm wondering if you can just help me out. And I know I'm going to run out of time, so if we could maybe keep it nice and concise, please, Senator, that as to how these manufacturers are supposed to reasonably control guns that are downstream and they've already sold them lawfully to a person who then is possibly negligent or unscrupulous with it.
Sure. So let me first say that the concept of holding downstream actors responsible is not foreign in our corporate ecosystem. It is a liability that can be imposed in almost every single other industry, with the exception of the gun industry. But let me read the section that I think may answer your question. So in the definitions, we say reasonable controls and procedures shall mean policies that include but are not limited to instituting screening, security, inventory, and other business practices to prevent thefts of qualified products, as well as sale of qualified products to straw purchasers, traffickers, persons prohibited from possessing firearms, et cetera. And so we do, and that's on page 2, starting line 16. And so the notion that this bill is vague, I really have to contest, because I think we give some specifics here on actions that can be taken in order to prevent this type of thing from happening. But there's another critical piece of this, and this is a knowingly and recklessly requirement on the manufacturer's part. If you are a manufacturer and you know that a particular gun dealer has been, for instance, burglarized on a number of occasions, and that gun dealer has taken no steps to cure that harm, you are now knowingly participating in this process. This, again, is not a concept that is foreign to our law, and the fact that you made an initially legal purchase, legal sale, rather, and there is some other intervention at another point, does not cut off your liability. And that's not just me hypothesizing. This has been stated by courts in the state of New York. The Fourth Department said specifically, intervening actions between a defendant and the harm suffered by the public, even multiple or criminal actions taken by third parties or occurring naturally, do not break the chain of causation if a defendant could reasonably have expected their nature and effect. And in the First Department, the Second Department, the Third Department, under a public nuisance theory, we have held individuals liable even when there have been subsequent intervening actions.
Yield for another question, Senator?
Sure.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam President.
Through you, Madam President.
Senator yields.
In that regard, thinking of, I always talk about my old law enforcement days as a prosecutor. Under what circumstance is it not reasonably foreseeable, because the way you paint it with that broad brush, that an object that's readily capable of producing a shot that can cause serious physical injury or death, the definition of a firearm under our penal law, how is that not likely to cause harm? Just like an automobile, which is a 3,000 to 5,000 or more pound weapon. So, when we see it all the time, when people try and run over police officers, they have justified shootings because that is a deadly weapon in that circumstance. So I think that when you say that collectively, that's always going to be the situation. Why doesn't this apply to automobiles, since it's going to definitely apply to a weapon?
I'm not sure of your exact question there, but let me try to tackle what I was able to gather. Firstly, the product itself is inherently dangerous. We recognize that. It's the reason why we regulate it the way that we do. And I don't think any of us would disagree that that regulation is necessary, given the inherent dangerousness of the product that we are discussing now. The law recognizes these distinctions. We do not regulate other more innocuous products the same way we regulate inherently dangerous products. And this particular bill is not going after responsible members of the gun industry. I think your own numbers that you cited earlier, I would venture to say that there are many good actors in the gun industry. That is not what this is aimed at. This is aimed at a small subset of bad actors in the gun industry who can't be held liable under any circumstance, as the law currently stands.
Another question for you, Madam
Senator
President.
yields.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you, Senator. So in that regard, if a federal firearm, an FFL, a licensed manufacturer, sells firearms to a distributor in full compliance and in accordance with all federal, state, and local laws and all regulations, have they created or maintained to a public nuisance in New York by that transfer?
You, Madam President, I believe that the answer to that question is one, incredibly fact-specific, and two, would be guided by the section that I just read, whether or not there were reasonable controls and procedures taken to mitigate this process. The reason why this is so important is that you cannot step into the courthouse now to even answer the question that you have posed to me. If you are a manufacturer and you have given to this dealer and you have complied with all of the laws, and that dealer has been irresponsible in how they have maintained their business, and those guns end up in the streets in Brownsville, the victims in Brownsville can't even ask the question that you've asked. They can't get to it. They can't see what was taken. They can't see whether or not there were protocols put in place to protect it. They don't know what the relationship between the manufacturer and the dealer was. We can't even get to the information. And that is what this bill is about. It is not about presumed guilt. It is about a day in court.
Will you yield for another question, Senator?
Absolutely.
Sponsor yields.
So can you tell me what would be unreasonable in that example for a federally licensed manufacturer to sell to a known, well-behaved, federally licensed distributor? Because once that gun is transferred, they have absolutely no control over where it goes or where it ends up. It's a fungible item, so to speak. So can you explain to me, in that example, how any of that is unreasonable and there could be liability?
Through you, Madam President, I'd just say again that it is a fact-specific question. If you are a responsible manufacturer, you then sell or give to a responsible distributor, and then somewhere things go awry, it's really the job of the fact finder to determine whether or not that manufacturer can be held liable. I mean, I could see certain instances where if you turned a blind eye to something that you knew was happening downstream, then that potentially makes you liable. But it is an intensely fact-specific inquiry that has to be made to determine the liability for each of these members of the gun industry. And it's why, again, it's so important that people not be shut out of the courthouse and have the opportunity to get to those facts.
Will you yield for another question, Senator?
Yes.
Thank you. And so, and I guess I'll go on the bill and talk more about the language that concerns me, where you have including but not limited to, because they're not exclusive lists. But we also have here at line 53 on page 2, the existence of a public nuisance shall not depend on whether the gun industry member acted for the purpose of causing harm to the public. And the acts or omissions of a gun industry member shall constitute a proximate cause of the public nuisance if the harm to the public was a reasonably foreseeable effect of such acts or omissions. So I would submit to you that when we're dealing with firearms, of course, they can be dangerous if misused. But my question is, would you agree with me that that actually creates now an affirmative duty that did not exist for manufacturers, that they must comply with this or otherwise face liability?
So I'm not sure I agree with the characterization of it, but if you are suggesting that we are contemplating making a decision as the policy-making body of this state to impose certain affirmative steps and duties that members of the gun industry should take, I would say absolutely, because we are within our full right to do so. And even those who would perhaps disagree with the policy choice that we are making, I don't think could reasonably disagree that it is well within the state's jurisdiction to protect the health and safety of the public. It is why we, a little over a month ago, declared gun violence a public health crisis. And I believe that this is one of the solutions to help stem the sources of that crisis.
Will you yield for another question, Senator, please?
The Senator yields. Senator Palumbo, I'd just like to remind you to direct all comments and questions through the chair.
Yes, Madam President. Thank you. I apologize for that. Again, it's old habits die hard from my years down the hall, you know what I mean? But, Madam President, through you, Senator, you ultimately have in here, as far as any of those lawsuits are concerned, that when there's a violation of this article, the Attorney General, in the name of the people of the state of New York, or a town attorney, city corporation counsel, or other lawfully designated enforcement officer of a municipality or local government, on behalf of the locality, may bring an action in a court of competent jurisdiction to enjoin and restrain such violations and to obtain restitution and damages. Senator, could you tell me who those damages would go to?
My understanding is that it depends on who the injured party was and the nature of the claim brought. And so the restitution or the damages here would go to whomever the fact finder found to be the injured party.
Would the Senator yield for one more
Senator sponsor
question,
yield?
please?
Sponsor
I
yields.
do.
Yes. So in that regard, Senator, if there's a private right of action in here, and that makes sense to me, but if the Attorney General wants to sue Remington in federal court or otherwise, and there are damages awarded there, would they just go to the state if there's no specific injured, or how would it be distributed to the general public? I think that there's some confusion there, and I'm wondering if you can help me out.
So in previous litigations and suits brought by the Attorney General, I'm thinking most recently against members of the financial sector, those settlements were given back to the state because the harm was done to the public generally. I have every reason to believe that should the Attorney General bring a similar lawsuit based on harm to the public, that those funds would similarly go to the state.
Thank you, Senator. I see I'm getting low on time. I appreciate your indulgence. Madam President, on the bill, please.
Senator Palumbo on the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. And generally speaking, the very intent of the bill articulates that this is intended to, the target of this legislation are gun manufacturers outside of New York State. We said 74% in the bill, roughly 75%. And the issue is this: that is an improper infringement on the Commerce Clause. I can't see how this even possibly would pass constitutional muster. But when we couple that with the many other statutes that are referenced in this bill, that the United States Code has a qualifying product, which is referred to in the bill, which under 15 U.S. Code 7903, Section 4, the term qualified product is a firearm, an antique firearm, ammunition, or a component part of a firearm or ammunition that has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. Now, the reference to potentially unscrupulous gun manufacturers, that is something that we, I think as a body, are in agreement that is unlawful. And as I say, the former prosecutor in me realizes how terrible that is, because we have this study, among many others, depends on which one you look at, but what I've seen over the years, it's always single digits of lawful gun owners are the ones committing crimes. So my friends, with this session almost behind us, and we see what has happened in the last year and a half regarding spikes in gun violence in New York City, spikes in gun violence around the country, spikes in big city, and with an attempt, although Hart would probably is in the right place in many respects, the so-called justice reform has resulted in a tremendous spike in use of illegal firearms. And again, 93% of these crimes are the ones I'm talking about. We haven't done anything in this body to address stricter penalties for illegally using a firearm. That's the proper position for this body to take, because that will help. This, even if it is constitutional, going after manufacturers for something they sold 3 years ago because someone's house was burglarized and they lost, and you saw those statistics, and these aren't made up, these aren't mine. As I said, this was the 2016 Department of Justice did this, and over 287,400 prisoners in the federal and local systems were interviewed, and the data was compiled, and 7% was the number. But overwhelmingly stole it, got it on an underground market, found it at the scene of a crime. They obtained it through no fault of any manufacturer. And in fact, that is where as I just mentioned, that is where our focus should be. So I think this is certainly a bill that will make a great press release, that we're really fighting crime and we're taking on those big, bad, inanimate objects that are guns. The guns do nothing by themselves. People kill people, not guns. Are we going to start to ban swords and baseball bats and automobiles? And again, I've discussed this issue, and I've through committees and so forth with the sponsor, and I understand his heart is absolutely in the right place to try and resolve this, I think, this issue, but this bill is completely misplaced. This bill does not make us safer, and unfortunately, this is going to create a flood of litigation, particularly when you have a free lawyer like the Attorney General doing it for potentially, I would suggest, sometimes political reasons. Lawsuits are filed in many states. That this is actually going to just really regulate those lawful gun owners. Because that 7% of people, yes, some people do commit crimes, but overwhelmingly, those people who are lawful gun owners are the ones that are going to be affected by this. So when the gun industry moves out of New York, unfortunately, we're going to have an even bigger increase in crime because the numbers are overwhelming for those that protect themselves with a lawful firearm. So unfortunately, Madam President, I urge my colleagues to vote no on this particular bill because it will not accomplish the goals that the sponsor seeks. Thank you very much.
Senator Lanza.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the sponsor yield for some
The
questions?
sponsor yield?
Madam
The sponsor yields.
Thank you. Thank you to the sponsor, and thank you, Madam President. Through you, Madam President, does the sponsor believe that the citizens of New York have the right to protect themselves by bearing arms? President, would the sponsor continue to
The
yield?
sponsor yield.
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Madam President, through you, the sponsor spoke about there being liability only when something goes awry. Isn't it a fact that every time someone becomes the victim of a gun crime, that something has gone awry?
I think every instance of gun violence is tragic.
Would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield? The
Yes.
sponsor yields.
Through you, Madam President, can the sponsor tell us or describe a fact scenario where someone is the victim of a gun crime and under this law, the manufacturer of that gun would not be subject to liability?
Through you, Madam President, and I hate to sort of speak in double negatives, but I think I'm going to get to the core of my colleague's question in that if you are a responsible manufacturer who can demonstrate that you've taken the appropriate and reasonable steps to prevent your product from flowing into the illegal market, then you will not be held liable. The key to this is taking reasonable steps. The bill does not prescribe perfection from any member of the gun industry. It does not call for negligence per se. It does not impose automatic liability. Instead, asks that members of the gun industry take reasonable steps. And that reasonable piece, again, is not a phrase that is foreign to our body of law. And we are, again, aimed at the irresponsible members of the gun industry.
Madam President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, ma'am.
The sponsor yields.
Through you, Madam President, first let me say I would agree with that sentiment that we want people, especially those that are in the manufacture of firearms, to be responsible. But let me pose through you, Madam President, this question. Let's say a manufacturer creates a firearm. That firearm is purchased lawfully, and then the lawful purchaser of that firearm, as rare as this is in real life, as Senator Palumbo pointed out, commits a gun crime with that lawfully purchased weapon. Isn't it true that even under those facts, that manufacturer would be liable for that crime if this bill becomes law?
Through you, Madam President, the bill, again, does not impose automatic liability. It simply provides a cause of action such that a court or a fact finder can determine whether that liability exists.
Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes, ma'am.
The sponsor yields.
So through you, Madam President, let me put it a different way. The sponsor says that liability is not automatic. But isn't it true that if this bill becomes law, by the facts I've described, where a manufacturer creates a firearm, someone lawfully purchases it, manufacturer's done nothing except manufacture that weapon, that lawful purchaser of the weapon commits a crime, isn't it true that this bill would automatically allow the victim of that crime to have a cause of action, and therefore impose liability upon the manufacturer.
Through you, Madam President, I feel like we're perhaps talking past each other, but it is a fact-specific inquiry to determine this liability. And I hate to sort of put myself in the place of the fact finder without having the totality of the circumstances before us. But if you are that manufacturer and you have demonstrated that you've taken reasonable steps to ensure that your products are not used for illegal purposes contributing to gun violence, then you would be able to demonstrate that in court or before the fact finder. This bill really is about allowing that process to begin. I think we are assuming that individuals have the capability, as the law stands now, to get to those facts and to make the case. And this is, if you are a good manufacturer, you are a good member of the gun industry, this bill doesn't threaten your existence. If you are carrying out your business in a responsible manner and you're taking the appropriate steps, you should not have to worry about this type of liability. And so, I would again just emphasize that this is about giving individuals the opportunity to make their case, just as they would be able to make in almost every other circumstance against a particular industry. But because the gun industry enjoys this unique immunization from civil liability, it has prevented people from being able to do so.
Would the sponsor continue to yield, Madam
Does the
President?
sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
So through you, Madam President, we are talking past each other a bit. I agree. I'm not saying ultimate culpability as determined by some verdict, I'm talking about liability. And presently, as the law exists here in New York, under the facts I've described, where a manufacturer has done nothing except manufacture the firearm, and that is lawfully purchased, and there's ultimately a gun crime committed with that weapon, the manufacturer will not find themselves in a court of law. And while the sponsor suggests that, well, if you've done nothing wrong, you will not be held liable, isn't it true that under every, Madam President, through you to the sponsor, isn't it true that every time there is a gun crime committed, if this becomes law, that the gun manufacturer will find themselves in court?
Again, this bill does not create automatic liability, and certainly not in the way that my colleague has phrased. I know I sound like a broken record here, but I want to emphasize that the intent of this bill is not to impose automatic liability on members of the gun industry. The intent of this bill is not aimed at responsible members of the gun industry. This bill is about giving the opportunity for victims of gun violence or any other injured party of gun violence to get to the facts, to determine whether or not these procedures have taken place. You can imagine that there are an incredible amount of victims in the state of New York who have suffered from an illegal gun, who have either had their family members killed, or their friends killed, or members of their community killed. And we also have a gun industry that can't be brought into court whatsoever. And so what this is about is allowing these two sets of circumstances to meet and allowing us to get to the facts. And so each case is going to be different. And my colleague understands this very well, that we can't predetermine these outcomes, and it really is for the fact finder to determine whether or not the manufacturer in this hypothetical was a responsible member of the gun industry.
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Madam
The
President.
sponsor yields.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President. Isn't the real attempt of this legislation to create such a litigation nuisance to gun manufacturers that it will drive them out of business so that they will not be able to produce weapons, so that people will not be able to protect themselves and enjoy the right to bear arms?
That is absolutely not the intent. And I would ask individuals who are listening to us, I know we have scores of viewers at home, I would ask individuals who are listening to us to consider the proposition that my colleague just put out, that if the gun industry can be held liable for bad behavior, that they will pack up and leave. What does that presuppose about the nature of the industry? That any accountability will force you out of the state. I disagree with the premise that the industry members who are responsible will leave the state. But if you can't do business in a responsible way, in a way that keeps guns off of our streets, then you should be held accountable for that. A business model that is predicated on profits that are derived from guns flowing into the illegal market is not one that we should support. And that's not what this bill is aimed at, and it is not the intent for us to go after the responsible members of the gun industry. It is, again, an attempt to give impacted individuals their day in court.
Would the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Through you, Madam President. First of all, I thank you for that response. I just want to be clear in terms of what the intent of the legislation is here on the floor. You talk about the fact that, and by the way, Madam President, through you, I think we have a different opinion about what is bad conduct. I think there are many, and they're entitled to their belief, that bad conduct is the very act of what gun manufacturers do, that the bad conduct is the actual creation of that weapon. There are people that believe that. They're entitled to believe that. I don't. I think that's part of what is at issue here. Through you, Madam President, the sponsor talked about this unique enjoyment of immunity. The government of New York City, New York State, enjoys all types of immunities with respect to protecting government from actions brought by its own citizens, even when the government has been negligent or grossly negligent. Madam President, through you, would the sponsor be willing to eliminate all provisions that provide immunity for the state government and the various municipal governments across New York?
President, I'm not sure that is within the scope of our debate here. My focus here is on what's before the House, and that is a bill that would make use of an exception to the immunity that was contemplated by the United States Congress, an exception that allows for states to regulate the commercial sale of firearms, an exception that has been recognized by the highest court in the United States, and that it is not an unlimited right we have to bear arms, but one that can be subject to regulation. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's an inherently dangerous activity that can't be unlimited and that does require some regulation. And states, for centuries, have had the ability to regulate and protect its citizens from threats to their health and safety. And so that's what is before us today, and I believe very strongly that we are fully within our power as a state legislative body to make the determination as to what those threats are and how we can solve those problems.
Yield.
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President. You know, I think the discussion surrounding this bill really centers on where ultimately liability rests when, as you say, things go awry. And so here the target of that discussion is the gun manufacturer. But, you know, I can give a lot of hypotheticals, but I do want to go through a couple. So, for instance, through you, Madam President, we know that people are losing their lives on the roads because of texting. Does the sponsor believe that the people who make these phones are liable for those deaths?
Madam President, you know, I suspect that we're going to go through a series of hypotheticals, so I might try to give an answer that might be useful for the rest of them. You know, Congress contemplated the nature of the firearm industry when they crafted this bill, the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, known colloquially as PLACA. Congress contemplated the nature of this industry, the nature of other industries, the nature of commerce, and they set out these particular protections for this industry and made sure to build in an exception that allowed for states to regulate the firearm industry directly. Considering all of its ability to regulate commerce, as outlined in the Commerce Clause in our Constitution, Congress still made this exception because the states enjoy a unique ability to protect its citizens. And so I understand the sort of road we're going down with the hypotheticals. I'm going to give the same answer in that even with all of these hypotheticals and other industries that I suspect you're going to bring up, Congress still said that the states are allowed to regulate the firearm industry. This bill squarely fits within that exception.
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Through you, Madam President, I thank the sponsor and I accept his same answer in advance, and so I won't go through them. We both understand each other's point. I would say that I think it's clear that Congress carved out, or this immunity was created because of the inherent nature of what a weapon, a firearm is, and therefore, in order to protect you know, the spirit of the Second Amendment, such immunity is seen by many to be critically important. Just a couple more questions through you, Madam President.
Does the sponsor yield? The sponsor yields.
So through you, Madam President, I understand the sponsor's intent here. It's to rid society of the plague of gun violence. I think we can all agree that that is a necessary, worthy goal. that we all must come together and achieve. Would the sponsor consider increasing penalties for those who commit gun crimes here in New York?
Through you, Madam President, the question on whether or not we should be going after the individuals who are pulling the trigger, I think is one that has been asked and answered by our entire statutory framework aimed at these particular individuals. And so this is not a bill that absolves individuals of responsibility. We have a robust police apparatus that is well-resourced, that aims at preventing and catching individuals who are committing crimes. We have a robust prosecutorial apparatus that is aimed at convicting such individuals. We have a massive incarceration structure meant to, or at least in effect, keeps these individuals off the street. This bill does not touch that. What the principle of this is, we have one set of laws and accountability for the individuals who are committing the crimes, but we have complete immunity and no accountability for the sources. And that's what this is about. That we cannot have one set of laws and one set of rules and one set of accountability for one side of the equation while completely letting off the other side.
Senator Lanza on the bill.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator Myrie. So let's start with that which we agree upon, that gun violence is a plague in our state and in the nation. In fact, all crime is really a mark on society, and we all need to come together and do something about it. I disagree with this idea, though, that we ought to put responsibility and liability and culpability on a gun manufacturer who's doing nothing except what the law allows in this country. And I can't help believe, and I think it's logical to conclude, given the nature of what it is that they manufacture, that every time something goes awry, as the senator suggested, there is a victim. And that because we have this problem in society with respect to those who believe it's all right to commit crimes against their neighbors, that ultimately a law like this will make it either impossible or untenable for the manufacturer of firearms to continue. That's why I asked the question about the real intent of the bill. Whether it's intended or not, I believe that ultimately is the outcome. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who would say, honestly, hey, that's great, because we don't believe the Second Amendment has any place in society in America anymore. It'd be great if there were no more gun manufacturers, because we don't want our citizens to have the right to protect themselves and bear arms. And that's an honest debate. People are entitled to that opinion. I think it's antithetical to everything that America stands for. But we can put that aside, because I think whether or not you believe that or not, that would be the ultimate result of a law like this. And it's not because it's protecting people who are doing the wrong thing. We all agree. If you're doing the wrong thing, as an attorney, I believe in culpability, and I believe in having that day in court. It's just that with this law, doing the right thing would still have you in that courtroom. And that's the problem for me with a bill like this. You know, you can carry the argument forward to say, well, the people who make knives, I didn't want to go through all the hypotheticals with the sponsor. People make knives, people stab people, the people who manufacture the knives, they're responsible. In New York, marijuana is legal, alcohol is legal. People die on the roads, and more people are going to die on the roads. Are the people who grew the pot or created the alcohol, are they responsible? Should they be responsible? I have an even more ridiculous one. A member of the Senate passes a law, votes for a law. As a result of that law, someone is able to commit a crime, or a murder is committed. Should that member of the Senate be brought into a courtroom and be held liable for the result of the law that that senator voted for? No, that's ridiculous. Just as ridiculous, I believe, as this law. Again, we all agree, Madam President, that we've got to do whatever it takes to prevent gun violence or violence of any type here in New York. In fact, all crime, gun violence, assaults, rapes, burglaries, robberies, they're all on the rise. Hate crimes, all on the rise, sadly, as we speak, right here in our beloved state of New York. And I believe, Madam President, that the reason for all that has more to do with societal ills and bad public policy. And one thing is clear to me also, is that this bill will not prevent a single act of gun violence. And when it's time to vote, Madam President, I'll be voting in the negative.
Senator Steck.
Bill.
Senator Steck on the bill.
Well, I'm familiar with the bill. I've read through it. I've appreciated listening to the debate that we've had here today and points that a lot of my colleagues have already made. But I go back to one thing. I think it is absolutely unreasonable for us to expect, first of all, there's obvious constitutional issues, Commerce Clause, and of course, the Second Amendment. But I think it's unreasonable for us to think that we're going to write a law affecting gun manufacturers outside of New York State and making them responsible and liable for the hundreds, if not thousands, of gun dealers that they sell their firearms through. They're not dealing directly with individuals. They're selling to other businesses who are then selling potentially to other businesses before it finally gets to an individual lawfully. One of my colleagues pointed out that just a few years ago, I think it was a federal statistic, he quoted 7% of gun crimes are done with illegal firearms. So I understand, I believe, that the sponsor's intent here is to capture and somehow bring pressure to not only those 7%, but the other 93% by holding somebody else accountable for those actions. And certainly, I think the point's been made, and I feel this way, and I know all my colleagues feel this way, that we would love to end the scourge of gun violence in our state and in our country. The vast majority of Americans would like to see less gun violence. The question is, how do we get there? I think that's where the fundamental difference of opinion lies. So allow me, if you will, Madam President, to make gun manufacturers liable for the actions of people 2 or 3 places removed from them, and ultimately somebody doing something illegally, is unreasonable. It creates a slippery slope. The question's been raised, what about cars, people that are driving drunk on our highways? We're going to hold Ford and GM responsible for the cars that somebody was using illegally, or the cell phone analogy. Cell phones are, no question, cell phones are causing deaths on the highway. Are we suing Apple? Are we suing Samsung? Are they liable for this? It becomes a slippery slope. What about alcohol? What about recently legalized marijuana that we can't test for sobriety on our roadways? Are we going to make them responsible? Or are we going to hold people accountable for their own actions? It will invite a lot of frivolous lawsuits. And now perhaps, and I'm willing to give the sponsor the benefit of the doubt, But at the end of the day, the sponsor isn't the only person that's going to be utilizing this newly created legal tool in New York State should this become law. There's a lot of others out there that will use this to promote frivolous liability actions in court. It'll cost a lot of money. Maybe some people are willing to pay that price. I understand that argument. But the other thing is that there will be people that will try to use this to drive gun manufacturers out of business. And again, maybe there are some people that are 100% okay with that. But these are the other consequences that a law like this certainly could pose should it become law. I think the larger issue, though, again, if the goal is to eliminate or reduce gun violence, you've got to look at the whole picture. In the last few years in New York State, the legislature and the governor, some of the majorities, have taken actions to weaken our criminal justice system. The bail and discovery reforms, decriminalizing a lot of things, some of them well-intentioned, sure. Again, but a lot of unintended consequences or maybe intended consequences that aren't advertised. But we have created a weaker judicial system, criminal justice system. We have weakened corrections. We have emptied more than half of our incarcerated population is out. Again, I understand there will be many that will welcome that. This is great news. But the reality is that 10 years ago, there were 40,000 more people locked up in our prisons. Not all of them are good people. There are a lot more people walking around now that had been locked up that are, because of actions taken in Albany, are now among us. And many of them are trouble. So we've weakened our correction system. We're talking about eliminating unqualified immunity. We are gutting our police protections with 50A that was taken away. New York City has eliminated $1 billion crime unit. These are cops that were on the street that are gone now because of defunding the police. That's happened in New York City. And then, of course, not to be overlooked, the dangerous anti-police, anti-law enforcement rhetoric from some members of this chamber, our colleagues down the hall, and all across the country that have reduced respect for the law, reduced respect for law enforcement, and emboldened a bad, dangerous behavior in our criminals. So what have we seen? All this is true, what we've done with the criminal justice system, with the corrections, police liability, defunding the police, our rhetoric, and what have we seen? Crime is spiking. The governor himself just a few days ago said, with surprise, crime, crime, crime. That's a big issue in New York City right now, with surprise. This should come as no surprise. So we've got violent crime is on the rise. Well, what hasn't changed in the last couple of years, one of the constants, the non-variables in the equation is our strictest gun laws in the country haven't changed. They haven't gotten weaker. They're the constant here. So the other variables are the other things that I just mentioned. But this legislation seems to take the attitude that this is a way to fix the problem, is instead of addressing, well, maybe we went too far on bail and discovery reform, or maybe we should be having more people behind bars because they are dangerous, and we shouldn't decriminalize everything, and maybe we don't need to defund the police, and maybe we should encourage respect for law enforcement among our young people, that the attitude is, no, guns are the problem. And it doesn't make any sense to say that the way to fix the gun violence problem lies predominantly in going after a manufacturer outside of state who's selling his product legally to a dealer who is selling that he can't control, but we're dealing with things that are 2 or 3 steps removed and you're making somebody else liable for them. It's certainly not fair, but more importantly, I don't think it's a reasonable approach to the solution of gun violence. Now, some people will say, well, it's an approach. It's better than doing nothing. I'm not sure that de-arming the vast majority of us that are law-abiding citizens in a climate where we're legalizing everything, letting everyone out of prison, and disrespecting our law enforcement and defunding our law enforcement, I'm not sure that sending the signal to the criminal class that, and in addition to that, we're going to make it a lot more difficult for law-abiding citizens to be armed, is a reasonable solution to the gun violence program. So Again, my opinions on the sponsors' motivations and intent here aside, I think that there's a lot of peril in heading in this direction. We've seen it coming for a while, but to sell this as this is a solution to the current spike in crime is an untruth. And for this and many other reasons, I will be voting against this legislation. I encourage all my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 4, this action will take effect immediately. Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Jackson to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. My colleagues, I rise in support of Senator Murray's Bill S-1048A. I am a concerned citizen of this great state, a father, a grandfather, and a neighbor. The growing gun violence in our city concerns all of us, and supporting this bill is an act of conscience and care for our communities and youth. June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. And in fact, Madam President, the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Asian caucus of the New York State Legislature had a press conference yesterday about this matter. And let me tell you some of the statistics. 83% of New Yorkers support to stop the flow of illegal guns in our state. Gun violence in New York costs over $5.9 billion, and I'm raising my voice, yes, because that's a lot of money. $5.9 billion per year, including $321 million in paid taxes. 74% of guns in our state come from out of state. We know where they come from, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, other places like that. And we demand the gun industry be accountable. 1 in 40 black boys will die from gun violence during his lifetime. And where did we get these stats from? They were on billboards at our press conference, supplied by Keeping Our Community Safe, holding the industry accountable. Our state is awash with legal and illegal guns. Our young people, especially young people of color, suffer the consequences of the violence these guns enable. This situation is unacceptable and must end now. And I raise my voice because it is so important. So many people are dying all over our city, all over our state, all over our country. I say, with the passage of this bill, we hope to establish, alongside the right to bear firearms, the right of our constituents in this great state to hold firearm industries accountable. I spoke at the press conference and said, Jackie Rowe Adams, she is a constituent of mine who has lost two boys to gun violence at different times, Madam President. And many members of groups she formed, Harlem Mothers Save, a community-based organization whose members are mothers, grandfathers, grandmothers, sisters, and cousins, whose family members have been killed to gun violence. And her saying is, every gun off our street saves a life. Sandy Hook, Connecticut. I don't need to tell you about that, but if you want to remember, 40 students were killed and 6 adults perished in a horrible, brutal act of violence. The U.S. Supreme Court has allowed families of Sandy Hook victims to sue gun manufacturers and distributors of the gun used at Sandy Hook. Madam President, my colleagues, I say to you, I rise to support this bill. I thank our Senator Murray, our colleague, for his leadership on this bill. and to all my fellow colleagues who join in co-sponsoring. I vote aye in support of this legislation and to save lives, Madam President. Thank you.
Senator Jackson to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Overrocker to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, this legislation is continuing to take New York State in the wrong direction. I want to say that again. This legislation is continuing to take New York State in the wrong direction. And this really comes down to just three simple points: personal accountability, manufacturing jobs, and the Second Amendment. And all are being diminished today thanks to this bill. Let's start with personal accountability. If signed into law, individuals will no longer be responsible for their own bad acts. It is part of an ongoing trend telling criminals, don't worry, it's not your fault. Blame someone or something else. Today it's firearms. But what's next? If someone causes an accident texting while driving, are we suing Apple or are we suing Chevrolet? No. You know, as a product developer in the food industry, I am required at times to put warning labels on products that I manufacture and produce. And I say that I would like to give you 3 examples of some warning labels that are in actual use. One you will find on a wheelbarrow. It says, not intended for highway use. A baby stroller. Remove child before folding. Dog medication. May cause drowsiness. Use care when operating a car. These are actual warning labels in use today, and I can tell you unequivocally they work. I have not seen a dog operating a motor vehicle. So it could be just as easy and as simple as putting a warning label on every manufactured product on the correct use. And we would not have to have such a long and strenuous debate. Manufacturing jobs. This bill will cost jobs in my district and across New York State, plain and simple. Herkimer County in the Mohawk Valley has a rich manufacturing history that includes Remington Arms, one of the oldest and most respected firearm manufacturers in the nation. And they have anchored the Mohawk Valley for over 200 years. You know, I'm proud. I am a proud owner of Remington products. My first was a Model 10 22 that was given to me by my grandfather at age 8, taught the correct way to handle a firearm, the correct way to use a firearm. My second was an 1100 LT 20 gauge shotgun, which I'm proud to say I was able to harvest my first deer with a long time ago. And then my last is a Model 700 30-06 mountain rifle. Some of the finest firearms made in the U.S. today. The company has weathered a number of storms, including the SAFE Act, another bad policy that condemns law-abiding firearm owners. Now, after changing ownership, Remington is bringing back employees to work for the moment. You know, I spoke with the CEO at Remington about this legislation, and there is a great deal of concern. Misguided laws like this could spell the end for Remington and every gun manufacturer who does business here in New York State. A strategy, I suspect, is partially behind a bill like this. How is a manufacturer supposed to ensure that their legally produced product isn't being used illegally? You know, just the other day we passed a bill that would require people to be 21 years of age to purchase whipped cream canister chargers. Why bother? Why didn't we just pass a bill holding the manufacturers of this whipped cream canister? Why don't we hold them liable for the product if it's misused? Finally, and most importantly, our Second Amendment rights. Once again, the rights of law-abiding citizens are at risk. This bill does nothing to stop illegal gun trade or hold criminals responsible. The legislation is unrealistic and will do nothing to reduce gun violence. Second Amendment rights, personal accountability, and manufacturing jobs. And you can add those to the scrap heap here in New York State if we continue to push through this severely flawed policies like this. Madam President, I will be voting in the negative, and I urge everyone else to do the same. Thank you.
Senator Oberrocker to be recorded in the negative. Senator May to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. Dior Harris was 11 months old in April. She was riding in the back seat of a car when a gunman opened fire, hit her twice and killed her, and injured her 2 young cousins who were riding next to her. If that gunman had been wielding a knife instead of a gun, this tragedy would have looked very different. And it really takes a gun to perpetrate that kind of casual, effortless violence. One of the charges against the suspected killer is criminal possession of a firearm. We already have laws against trafficking firearms, selling guns on the black market, carrying concealed weapons without a permit, but we can't hope to stop the influx of these deadly, illegal weapons unless we can take away the financial incentive for gun manufacturers and gun sellers who are irresponsible to participate in the mass trafficking of firearms that is currently so common in this state and around the country. I've been in the Senate for 3 years now. Each year, I recruit young people to my youth advisory board, and they develop public engagement projects. For 2 of the 3 years that I have done this, they have chosen gun violence as the topic they are most keenly focused on, the most important thing in their lives. The trauma that our children carry around with them is very real, and it affects every aspect of their lives. If this legislation we are passing today can stem the flow of illegal guns into our communities, maybe it can also help our children have the childhoods they deserve. I am deeply grateful to Senator Myrie and my colleagues and the leadership for bringing this legislation forward, and I vote aye.
Senator May to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Lieu to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President, for the opportunity to speak on this bill. I fully support this bill. I think that we have passed many laws in this state. I'd like to see them passed at the national level, but we certainly have taken the initiative in the state of New York to keep the guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them, to ensure that if and when they are possessed, that they are used in the right way, and to have strong penalties against people who use guns in the wrong way, specifically to kill people. And people die almost every day. We see alarming mass shootings all around the country, including here in New York. We see many other people being shot dead by guns, where the incidents are not nearly as publicized or sensationalized. But people are dying, and they're dying because of the proliferation of guns in our community. As has been said, some legal, but many illegal. And as we have sought to strengthen the laws about who can get access to guns, we also need to start closing down this iron pipeline that's been directing guns directly into New York State, even with our strong laws in place. I think Senator Myri's legislation here is groundbreaking. It really begins to put the onus at the beginning of that iron pipeline, the manufacturers of guns and ammos. They are profiting. No matter how legal or illegal the gun trade is, these manufacturers profit. What we seek to do is to impose some accountability, hold these manufacturers responsible for flooding our state and country with these firearms, putting them in the hands of people who should not have them. This groundbreaking legislation, I hope, will pass. But beyond that, I hope that the rest of the country, other states, and hopefully someday soon, the federal government will use this model of legislation so that we can start curbing the entry of the supply into the iron pipeline. Thank you, Madam President. I vote yes.
Senator Liu to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Myrie to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President, and let me thank our Majority Leader, Senator Andre Stewart Cousins, and Chantel Smith, and our counsel, Elizabeth Nowicki, my staff, to the many impacted individuals who we carry with us into this chamber. I'd like to thank my colleagues, and I'd like to thank my colleagues on the other side as well, Senator Lanza and Senator Palumbo. We disagree on this legislation, obviously, but I don't think we were disagreeable in our exchange today, and I appreciate the civility. You know, I had a big speech planned, had a lot I wanted to say. I'm tired, Madam President. I'm tired of going to funerals. I'm tired of seeing candles on the block. I'm tired of having to hold a grieving mother. I'm tired of having to look into the eyes of a teenager who's paralyzed because of a gunshot. We're tired. And this state cannot stand idly by while guns traffic in and out and kill our children. Enough is enough. We have to stand up. The money is not more important than our people's lives. So today we say enough is enough. If you are a bad actor, if you are irresponsible, your day will come. We deserve better in this state, and we will lead the way. So I proudly vote in the affirmative, and I urge all of my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Myrie to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1076, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Hellman, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 43, nays 20.
The bill is passed. Senator Liu, that completes the reading of the controversial calendar.
Madam President, can we return to motions and resolutions?
Motions and resolutions.
Madam President, on page number 28, I offer the following amendments to calendar 951, Senate print number 5953 by Senator Reichlin Melnick, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendment is received and the bill shall retain its place in the third reading calendar.
Madam President, on page 42, I offer the following amendments to calendar number 1183, Senate print number 1110-A by yours truly, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
The amendment is received and the bill shall retain its place in the third reading calendar.
Can you please call on Senator Lanza?
Senator Lanza.
Thank you. Madam President, on behalf of Senator Oberacker, on page 48, I offer the following amendment to calendar 1264, Senate Print 396A, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
The amendment is received and the bill shall retain its place in the third reading calendar. Senator Liu.
Madam President, is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
I then move to adjourn until Thursday, June 3rd at 11 a.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Thursday, June 3rd at 11 a.m.